They don't call it the conference of quarterbacks for nothing. The Pac-12 had some legendary QBs. Heisman winners.
And the winner for 2022, Caleb Williams, Southern Cal.
Rose Bowl heroes.
He keeps it. He rolls. He is in. Touchdown. Warren Moon.
Dudes putting up video game numbers every Saturday.
Mariota steps up in the pocket, throws on a move. Touchdown.
Maybe some other quarterbacks who can run this fast. Other quarterbacks who can throw accurately. No one can do both those things like this guy.
For some schools, who's their best quarterback of all time was easy. But for the rest, we got Caleb Williams or Carson Palmer. What about Matt Leinart? John Elway or Andrew Luck? What about Jim Plunkett? Even Colorado, how much did a jersey retirement factor into my decision?
Leinart gonna try to sneak it ahead. He got it. Touchdown, SC.
He's got three people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown! Caught by Westbrook!
So here it is, my completely unofficial but 100% correct list of the greatest quarterback in every OG Pac-12 school's history. Let's get into it. We're starting with the most recent legend on this list. Let's head to the Pacific Northwest for what some call the greatest setting in college football, Washington. Warren Moon's legacy is bigger than football. He was told to switch positions coming out of college because NFL teams didn't trust black QBs to lead franchises. Instead, he went to the CFL, won 5 straight Grey Cups, and forced the NFL to take notice. He was 28 when he finally got his NFL shot, and he went on to become the first black quarterback inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Real Pac-12 fans remember my former coach, Marcus Tuiasosopo, and more recently, Michael Penix Jr. But the guy we're going with is the dude I chopped it up with at the driving range last summer before the Bengals called him, Jake Browne.
Take me through what it actually means to really solidify yourself as one of the all-time greats that's ever worn this uniform.
Feels good, but felt better to win today.
Browne is Washington's all-time leader in wins, yards, and TDs. Not as flashy of a name, but for 4 straight years, he was the dude in Seattle. He brought UW back to national relevance. He led the first 10-win season in 2016 since 2000, and led the Dogs to the CFP. We're staying up north for the next most recent legend on this list. There's been a lot of talent under center in Eugene. Joey Harrington was the comeback king. Dennis Dixon was a Heisman favorite until his knee gave out. Justin Herbert had all the tools and became a top 10 pick. But when we're talking about the dude at Oregon, it's Marcus Mariota.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't care about legacy, so that's other people's opinions. My main focus was to be a great teammate.
Well, his legacy was that he was the first Duck to ever win the Heisman. Over 10,000 yards passing, over 2,000 rushing. And he also led the Ducks to the national title game. And when people ask me who's the best opposing quarterback that I ever faced, I didn't start against Marcus Mariota, but he played while I was in college, and he is the best quarterback I've ever seen on film while I was currently playing. Mariota changed how people looked at Oregon. From a flashy offense to a legit national title contender. He's the gold standard in Eugene. Now we're heading to the farm for our next QB. Stanford's got 2 other quarterbacks with Hall of Fame resumes. Jim Plunkett won the Heisman and beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. John Elway was the 2-time Pac-10 Player of the Year and probably had the most raw talent of any quarterback in the country. But Andrew Luck?
All I really care about is winning college football games and, going to class and trying to be a good teammate.
When Luck showed up, Stanford wasn't exactly a football school. But by the time he left, they were consistently going to BCS bowls and bullying teams. He went 31-7 as a starter, finished second in the Heisman twice, and made intellectual brutality a real thing. He had the stats, the wins, the leadership, and the respect of every coach that faced him. This is no shade against Plunkett or Elway, but Luck led the best run in school history. At the same time as Andrew Luck, there was a dude slinging it in the desert. Arizona doesn't have a Heisman winner or a Natty, but they molded a young man who would go on to have one of the most epic Super Bowl runs in football history.
That was fun. That was amazing. What a game. That's all I can say, what a game.
Nick Foles is the best to ever do it in Tucson, and he even beat Andrew Luck, all-time passing leader with just 3 seasons. But it wasn't just the stats, it was the moments, like the wild comeback against Stanford in 2009. Foles went toe-to-toe with Andrew Luck, throwing for 415 yards and 3 touchdowns. Arizona rallied from a 15-point deficit to win it late.
That was fun. That was amazing. What a game. That's all I can say, what a game.
Now it's time to hit LA, home to some of the best quarterbacks in college football history. This one's gonna have plenty of debate in the comments. Carson Plummer brought USC back. He won the Heisman in 2002 and laid the foundation for everything that was to come for USC. Caleb Williams might be the most talented quarterback the school's ever had. What he did in 2022 was just straight up ridiculous. But the pick here is Matt Leinart.
I think that's something that I've been very successful at, just kind of handling my thing, doing my job, playing with my team, and that's it. And I'm obviously gonna cherish this last year forever.
He went 37-2 as a starter, won the Heisman, won 2 national championships. And yeah, he had dudes around him like Reggie Bush, Lendell White, and Dwayne Jarrett, but Leinart was the leader of that dynasty. Just a 5-hour drive north and just about the same era. There's a Northern California program with some sneaky good quarterback history. Jared Goff set just about every school passing record and took them to a bowl game after a long drought. But the pick here, it's Aaron Rodgers.
I'm a primetime player. I came through when it counted, and I'd like to thank my arm for being so strong and accurate.
He only played 2 seasons, but it was enough to make him a legend. In 2004, he nearly took down #1 USC by completing 23 straight passes. Still one of the most surgical performances you'll ever see. Rodgers brought Cal back to national relevance. He helped them finish top 10 for the first time in 50 years. And oh yeah, the dude turned out pretty decent in the pros too. Next, we head out to Salt Lake City, and it's a QB who's forever entwined with the last guy on this list. I thought this might go Cam Rising. Back-to-back Pac-12 titles, 2 Rose Bowl appearances, absolute warrior. Brian Johnson deserves a shout out too. The dude beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl and led Utah to a perfect season. But the pick here is
Alex Smith. Now, Alex is a mature player. Yo, Herb Street, this guy is the complete package.
Went 21-1 as a starter for a program who had only won 10 games once in their previous 98-year history. In 2004, he went 12-0, finished 4th in the Heisman, and led Utah to be the first non-power conference team to make a BCS Bowl. And they didn't just make the Fiesta Bowl, they dominated 35-7. Smith was the reason people started taking Utah seriously. And you could argue he was the only reason the Boise States of the world started to get legit looks for BCS Bowls shortly thereafter. Let's go back to the Northwest, but this time it's the Palouse, and a quarterback who brought swagger and a Rose Bowl run to Pullman. Drew Bledsoe became the #1 overall pick. Garner Minshew set records, won Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year, and brought Wazoo into the national spotlight with the mustache and the magic. But the one who truly changed the game for Wazoo?
Ryan Leaf doing the Heisman pose.
In 1997, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 33 touchdowns, and led Washington State to the Rose Bowl for the first time in 67 years. He finished 3rd in Heisman voting, went 2nd overall in the draft, and brought legit swagger to a program that hadn't sniffed that kind of success in decades. Yeah, the NFL stuff didn't work out, but in college, Ryan Leaf was a superstar, and no one's topped him at Wazoo since. Around the same time as Ryan Leaf, there was a quarterback who almost led the Sun Devils to it all. It was Jake the Snake Plummer.
He really epitomizes what we're trying to do here at Arizona State. He's competitive, he's tough, he's smart, he cares, he loves the school, he's a good student, he's a good citizen.
He beat Nebraska at the height of their powers in 1996. They had just won 2 straight national championships and were on a 26-game winning streak until they met the Snake. He led Arizona State to an undefeated regular season that year and took them within seconds of a national title. In the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, he led what could have been the game-winning drive.
The throwback pass to Jake Plummer in the same stadium against UCLA.
They're coming again.
Plummer in trouble, steps away, cuts free, breaks loose, 5, touchdown, Sun Devils. Woo! The Snake does it again. This team won't die. You can cut a snake's head off, but he continues to live.
Ohio State went on to score with 19 seconds left to win the game. But the fact remains, Jake Plummer became a Sun Devil legend. Finished 3rd in the Heisman voting. Went 11-1 that year. And there's been some other good quarterbacks in Tempe, but no one can match the Snake. Next, Colorado should be easy, right? Look at the quarterbacks who've got their jerseys retired, and all jokes aside, Shedeur is worthy of the honorable mention here. Darian Hagan deserves love here too. He led Colorado to 3 Big 8 titles and the 1990 National Championship. The dude was the master of the option attack and an all-time CU legend. But the pick here is Kordell Stewart. Slash was ahead of his time. He could run, throw, roll out, and launch missiles 60 yards downfield. His miracle at Michigan throw was one of the most iconic plays in college football history.
3 wide outs at the top of the picture. Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown! Caught by Westbrook for a touchdown!
That was to beat number 4 Michigan in the Big House. To put his legacy into perspective, his teams were ranked inside the top 25 for every single game during his 3 years at CU. Let's head back to LA. This debate came down to 2 legends, but one stood out as the most complete quarterback in school history. First, we gotta shout out Gary Beeman. Dude won the 1967 Heisman, played through cracked ribs, nearly beat USC in one of the greatest games of all time, and that was the face of UCLA football in the 60s. But the greatest quarterback in UCLA history, it's Troy Aikman.
Elway and Jim Kelly and Dan Marino and certainly Joe Montana and what he's accomplished.
Where do you think you fit in?
I'm below all of them. That's how I look at it. I think when you're young and you're looking up to somebody and you watch them at an early age and know that that's what you want to one day become.
He's the most complete quarterback the Bruins ever had. He transferred in, went 20-4, won the Davey O'Brien, and his 1988 team was better than any Beeman ever played on. He was the #1 overall NFL draft pick, and while that's not a college metric, it does reflect how complete his game was. And finally, we're wrapping things up at one of my favorite places to call games, Corvallis. The oldest name on this list, but one whose legacy still hasn't been touched. And it might surprise some people because Jonathan Smith led that 2000 Fiesta Bowl team that smoked Notre Dame. Sean Mannion set the all-time Pac-12 passing yards record. But the greatest Beaver quarterback of all time, it's Terry Baker. And honestly, it's not close.
The #1 quarterback in the country is Terry Baker of Oregon State. In addition to his gridiron heroics, Baker is an honor student in mechanical engineering, the president of his fraternity, and a starting guard on the Oregon State basketball team. Despite this schedule, Terry manages to find time for a date or two with pretty Marilyn Smith. Ah, yes, he's the All-American boy.
He's the only player in history to win the Heisman and play in the Final Four. Let me say that again. He won the Heisman and played in the Final Four.
As a point guard, he helped lead OSU to the 1963 Final Four.
And one of his records still stands today. His 99-yard touchdown run in the Liberty Bowl, still the longest in bowl history. There hasn't been anyone like him before or since in Corvallis. Let the debate begin down below in the comments. Let me know who I missed and who I got right. If you watched this far, I appreciate you. Please consider subscribing, like this video. It helps me reach more people so I can keep making more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.